upon their arrival was almost unspeakable.
We thought all evil in some form or another. I'm not guilty.
The dead won't bother you. It's the living you gotta worry about.
If I couldn't keep them there with me whole, at least I felt that I could keep their skeletons.
Hello and welcome to the Bad Taste Crime Podcast. I'm Rachel.
I'm Vicky.
I'm congested.
Oh boy. Oh
it's that time of year here in the Midwest.
Oh God.
It's
like
sniffly.
When you can't decide between winter and spring.
Yeah.
All we do is talk about the weather at the beginning of this podcast.
Oh my God, you're right.
And it cracks me up because that's a very Midwest.
It's just cultural
thing to do.
It's our culture.
Talking about the weather.
Talk about the weather and to eat and not talk about our feelings.
Yeah. We're coming to the end of soup season too. It makes me really sad.
It's always soup season in my heart.
It's true.
What's your favorite soup?
I personally like cream soup.
Me too.
So like chowders.
Yeah.
Like a cheddar broccoli. Right now I have in my freezer, it's a roasted garlic cheddar broccoli and cauliflower soup.
Oh, that sounds
really good. So yeah, like the cream based. I'm not big on like chili. I don't like chili. I don't like
disrespectfully
bean
disagree.
soup.
Oh,
I know.
Disagree.
Yeah, I'm not big on those. I do like a good chicken soup or a chicken stew.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
Anyway,
yum.
Moving on from soup chat, we're gonna head over to the newsroom.
Unfit to breathe, our food is unfit to eat. We sit watching our TVs while some local newscaster tells us that today we had 15 homicides and 63 violent crimes, as if that's the way it's supposed to be. We know things are bad, worse than bad.
This week, our news comes from our lovely state of Illinois.
Oh
Speaking
my God,
of Midwest. But it
How's the weather there?
It involves a priest from Detroit.
Ooh.
Who is also known as an exorcist.
Oh.
Okay.
Okay.
There was an incident in November of 2024.
Okay.
Where he allegedly flossed his teeth with the hair of a teenage girl.
Ew.
Yeah. So he's looking at a misdemeanor battery charge.
What
the article, this is from MLive. It says he was in Illinois in November while working as a traveling priest. He allegedly approached a 13-year-old girl about her hair and asked her if she ever flossed her teeth with her own hair.
Ew.
Martins then picked up some of her hair, placed it in his mouth, and made a flossing motion. It then says that he was sitting in a pew behind the same girl and was like growling at her. So there's that.
Was he getting like high off his own supply and just like was like infested with demons?
I'm not sure. This guy's also got a podcast apparently.
Oh hell
and a
yeah!
book
It comes out
about
after
exorcism.
This. Oh, we should all pick it up.
No,
what a freak! That's disgusting. That poor girl.
Yes. He's not charged with anything, or I mean, he's charged with misdemeanor, but he hasn't been convicted of anything.
He's convicted of being a fucking weirdo in my heart.
It is very strange.
Ew.
I will agree.
That gives me the willies.
Strange. We're gonna move on to Netflix and Kill. This week we are talking about Jerry Springer. Fights camera action.
Very catchy.
Very catchy title. It is this sort of interesting look behind the scenes of the making of Jerry Springer. And obviously, it is on Netflix. Obviously, the show is, I would say, controversial.
Definitely.
It was at a time where like shock value television was very big. I mean, this was the same time that like Girls Gone Wild got super popular. And like Maury was really popular around the same time.
Yeah, I loved Maury.
Howard Stern, like his show soared to popularity because he was just like wildly inappropriate.
And horrible. I hate that guy.
And so it talks about them getting guests on the show and how everything worked behind the scenes. You're probably wondering why I'm bringing this up at a crime show.
Yeah.
So there is actually an instance where a guest on the show was murdered by, it was one of these like love triangle things where he was like dating the mistress, but he was like sleeping with his former wife on the side type of thing.
Yeah, not a good idea to put those kinds of things on TV.
Yeah. And the way that they were getting the guests on the show was like kind of sketchy. Like they weren't necessarily being told the whole truth all the time.
Right.
And we're told to sort of play it up, right?
That's like that one where like they had the guy on the show and like his friend confessed to like being in gay love with him and then he murdered him. It's just not a good idea to tell people secrets on national television, I feel.
And so one of the people involved in
not
this
victim blaming, but like
Right. One of the people that was involved in this love triangle was murdered.
Wow.
And it's sort of like then all of a sudden they were doing like Jerry Springer from the Caribbean and it's pretty wild. I mean, it's just
waters.
like it's a little peek into this very popular piece of pop culture and sort of like what are the ramifications of bringing people into this kind of environment and then literally sending them out with like zero follow up, like no like mental support, like
Jerry.
Yeah. Very interesting. It's called Jerry Springer Fights Camera Action. It's on Netflix.
Yes.
This is that part of the show where we say content may not be appropriate for all listeners.
It may not.
It may not. It may not. And definitely not.
It is not. Mine is not.
You know, it's going to be a pretty dark episode today. I think.
Yeah.
Blanket
trigger warning
warning
for everything, I feel.
Yeah.
Everything.
So what grim ass topic did you choose, Rachel?
Hello Kitty Island Adventure.
Oh my God. You can't get over that right now.
I want to play it. It looks so fun.
Nerd alert.
Yeah, shocker. Shocker. Today, listeners, it is time for the very topical topic of cults.
Okay.
Cults.
One of my personal favorites.
Mine too.
Personally.
I was excited to do this one. I can't wait to hear who you picked.
Yes.
I know you find cults just about as fascinating as I do. I know we talked not too long ago on the podcast about Jonestown, which I know is another one of your special interests for sure.
Specialties for sure. Yeah.
Jonestown was a massive cult, having at its peak around 900 active members, nearly all of whom would die via suicide or murder by the other cult members, which was obviously a gigantic news story. But I think smaller cults tend to be a bit harder to spot, especially when it appears on the outside to just be kind of a bunch of adults choosing to live near each other. I personally know a bunch of people, especially in like our generation, we're both millennials now, choosing to like live communally with their adult friends as opposed to having a single partner, just sort of as a way to save money and have a support system nearby.
Which is not a terrible idea.
It's really not. I'm going to be like a little controversial. I think that is my dream lifestyle. I would absolutely love to live that way.
Yeah. But when you add in, oh God,
the
girl.
cult aspect.
That's when things become problematic a little bit.
If you'd like to set up a commune with us, call in.
It will be a non-cult commune.
Yeah, that's the line. Everybody has lines. That's ours.
Yeah.
No cult stuff.
No cults.
No culty business. Leave that at your other commune. The cult I chose to focus on was called Angel's Landing. Have you heard of this one before?
I have not.
This is a really interesting one. It's horrible.
It sounds very, is it more of a modern cult or is it older?
This is modern. This is in like the 2000s, 2010s.
Because it sounds Angel's Landing has a very like
70s.
Sort of new agey kind of
I guess so.
feel to it.
It does.
Yeah. So
it's just like really on a small scale, which is why I found it so interesting.
I am not familiar. I have never heard of them.
We'll get ready to get familiar.
Oh, God.
I'm going to familiarize you.
Okay. Cool.
I remember watching an episode of the show Deadly Cults that focused on Angel's Landing. I actually rewatched it to prepare because it's really informative. It's a good show. It's like, I think, an Oxygen one.
Okay. Is it Oxygen or ID? One of the two.
They're
kind of this. They're very similar.
Very
in
similar.
Like production value. And,
but this one had a lot of interviews like from like people who were in the cult. So it was really worth watching.
Yeah.
I liked it. I'll link it in the show notes.
Okay.
It's streaming on Hulu right now, so you can go check it out. If you have Hulu, which you should, so you can watch What We Do in the Shadows, but not the last season.
I was watching that this morning before you got here.
I was so mad. That last season was trash.
So good.
I'm going to fight Taika Waititi in a parking lot.
I'm
so mad at him.
I liked it.
Why didn't Nandor and Guillermo kiss?
Oh my gosh.
I'm mad at him. That's the point of the show.
I mean, they did.
Okay, but like they aren't together forever.
No.
So who cares?
They
Not
did
I.
in the anyway, this is not
This is the What We Do in the Shadows podcast, and now I'm So going back to what I said about some people now choosing to live communally.
Okay.
Real estate agent Jennifer Hudson thought that sounded like a really swell idea.
not the Jennifer Hudson.
Not the Jennifer Hudson. No. This was a white one. And she was like not talented and a bad mother.
Oh, cool. Great. Awesome.
So,
Love that.
I feel like it's okay to like go and like sort of run off and join a commune if you're like single. But she had this
Sure.
like pesky husband and children. So she divorced her husband and yanked her 2 kids because she met this guy, Lou Castro. Lou was a
my
man
God.
with very particular real estate needs because he wanted to
Okay.
buy this commune, and she was a real estate agent. So he was like, hell yeah, how can we make this happen together? And she was like, actually, this all sounds fucking sweet.
Yeah.
And so during these meetings, as they were looking at different properties, the 2 got to talking as you do, just normal stuff. Do you like dogs? What's your sign? I'm an angel.
Okay.
You know,
Oh,
just
God.
like normal.
Oh, no.
Yeah, literally.
He said, I'm an angel.
He was like, by the way, I'm an angel from heaven. Hi, how are you? I'm like a real angel.
Cool.
Trust me, bro.
Cool.
Yep, Lou Castro revealed his totally true truth to the religious yet emotionally unfulfilled Jennifer, who again was like, oh, absolutely,
Yeah.
on my way, and rushed to split from her husband and move with her 2 young daughters all the way to Kentucky, moving in with
She was taking the kids with her.
Oh, she's like, goodbye.
Okay.
I'm going. It's cult time, girls. Let's go,
Yikes.
girls. Moving in with Angel Cakes and his group of loyal followers. I mean, besties. Now, to be fair, living on the commune was actually pretty nice. It was on 20 acres outside of Wichita, Kansas.
Okay.
So real like farmy, real like rural.
Yeah.
There's lots of footage of it, and it's like a series of buildings and like pole barns
Okay.
on like a good stretch of land. So everybody kind of had their own area,
Yeah.
but could come to like communal space, which I think is kind of the way to do it.
Right.
And Lou, even though he never had a job, was able easily to provide for all of them. Every time they had a need, he would fill it. The fridges were always full of food. Everybody had kind of the best of everything. It had a really nice pool.
Okay.
So
how?
well, because he's magic, Vicky.
Oh my
He's
God.
an
Okay.
angel. He's an angel from the Lord.
Manna from heaven.
Yeah.
Okay.
He doesn't need money. He just like wishes for it or something. I'm gonna be real. I don't know what angels are actually supposed to do besides like floating and like magic tricks.
They bring messages?
Oh no, wait, magic tricks is Chris Angel.
yes.
Mind freak.
Oh my God.
It was certainly enough proof for the group, who described their community as a little piece of heaven. Barf.
Okay. All right.
Part of
I'm just gonna put it in audio format. I'm skeptical.
You know what? How
I am
dare
skeptical
you?
at
How
this
could
point.
you really don't believe that
I'm
this guy
very
is a
skeptical
real
at this
for real
point.
feathery angel
Yeah.
from up in the clouds?
Yeah, color
That's
me skeptical.
How could you even think to question?
I don't know, but you know what? I just got a gut feeling.
You know what? I actually have trust your gut tattooed because I'm basic, so we're gonna go there. Part of Lou's so-called angelic powers included not only knowing when someone was going to die, but being able to stop and reverse death. Except he couldn't because angels aren't real, and even if they were, Lou Castro, spoiler alert, was not one. I know,
not an angel.
No, I'm sorry. He wasn't.
Called it.
I know. What if God was one of us? This was proven in 2003 when group member Patricia Trish Hughes did the unthinkable. That's right. She passed away.
Okay.
On a
That was the
regular-
real estate agent.
No, this
No.
is another one. This is
Okay.
like, she was one of like the OG cult members. Like she's been with him
Okay.
throughout like much of his life.
Okay.
So she was like a core member, and all of a sudden she turned up dead. And
Yeah.
it's like, weren't you supposed to bring people back from the dead? That's kind of the whole reason why we were here, bitch.
Right.
On a regular Wednesday evening, the Kentucky PD received a frantic 911 call from Jennifer, real estate Jennifer's 11-year-old daughter, Emily, who had found Trish deceased in the compound's pool.
Oh, no.
Yeah, Trish had been like a second mother to Emily and her sister Sarah, because honestly, I'm just going to say Jennifer did not seem like Mother of the Year at all.
Did they? Well, and I could see them having like a communal child care.
That's the thing. There was also a baby on the, who I think was Trisha's son. Yes. Who lived there as well. And I think they all kind of like shared all of the duties of childcare. But I feel like their mother was like kind of not attentive.
Sure.
So she was there often to take care of them. So it was a very hard blow to both of the children. And Trish was only 26 years old. According to the autopsy, Trish had fallen into the pool, hit her head, and had sadly drowned.
Oh, no.
Detectives on the scene were, of course, slightly skeptical, and they were, like I'm sure some of you are, starting to squint suspiciously at Angel Boy over here as a possible suspect.
Oh, God, okay.
But Lou was nowhere near the scene and had the solid alibi at being at a dealership, a car dealership, with other cult member, Jennifer's other daughter, Sarah.
Okay.
Which, like, okay, can't angels fly? Why do you need a Subaru?
Oh
Explain it to me.
Where are your wings, sir?
He's like, does this have lots of room for all my halos and such?
And such.
My harps and things.
Yeah.
My togas. But the police, having no other evidence with which to charge him, had to drop the case, except for one guy, Detective Ron Goodwin, who was like, hey, if this dude can lie about being an angel, what if he also lies about being a murderer and doing other stuff? And he was very much like, the police were kind of looking around the compound like, boy, this is a really nice place you got here. How much, so what do you do for work? Oh, you're an angel. Okay, so can we see your tax records?
Yeah, I'm still like, how are they even getting, like, where is he getting food from? Like, where is he getting money to, like...
Oh, he has money. But, you know, where does it come from? Don't even worry about it.
That's what I'm wondering. I'm with the police. Like, what...
I'm never with the police.
What is the magic? What is the magic? In this case, yes, what is the magic? I want to know.
It's real magic. So Ron Goodwin, being a good detective, started to sort of sneakily keep his eye on everything that was going on. And he had to do a 50-state check, like, of all the databases, because he was trying to find out who is this Lou Castro guy. So he types in Lou Castro. No paper trail. Nothing. He couldn't even find, like, a birth certificate.
Okay.
So he was like, what? But having no paper trail is not a crime. So his official interest had to kind of end, but he did continue to, like, keep tabs. And there's, like, a cute little thing at the end where, like, he went to, like, every court. Like, he was involved forever.
I'm just surprised. So no paper trail to me would also signal, like, no birth certificate, no social security number. And that's not a red flag?
Right. I don't know how they couldn't do anything financially.
Why is that not a red flag?
Legally, it's a red flag for me.
For me, that's kind of a red flag.
I don't know if it was because it was, like, rural Kentucky. People aren't, like, hurting anybody. You know, I don't know.
I guess, but, like...
No, I'm with you.
Everybody's got a number. You know what I mean? Like...
Right. And this was in the 2000s, so you'd think that they'd be like, sir, hello?
Right. Okay. Sorry.
Yeah,
Keep going.
No, I'm totally with you.
That's so weird.
So they were like, okay, have fun doing cult stuff. Bye.
Yeah.
Now, the cult was left reeling by Trisha's death. The person who was surely most affected was Trisha's husband, Brian, also a cult member.
Okay.
They really only associated with people in the cult.
Okay.
He became more and more depressed until one day he was working on one of the commune's cars, an activity that he loved. Tragically, as he lay under the car, the jack malfunctioned and the car fell on him and killed him.
Oh, no.
Now, here's the thing. A lot of the, like, documents and stuff around this, and, like, he was, Lou was never charged with his death, but, like, it was he was a mechanic, and that Lou was a mechanic.
Okay.
And it was rare for Brian to work on cars alone. Like, I feel like that has to be, like, a mechanic failsafe. You don't want to have, like, a big-ass car on top of you and not have, like, a spotter. That kind of makes sense,
yeah.
You know what I mean?
So they thought it might be a little suspicious, but...
Yeah.
Didn't have anything other than a hunch, really.
Right.
Okay,
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, call me Quasimodo, because I have a hunch. So just a little chestnut there. Fast forward to 2005. Our girl Jennifer, who was allegedly happy and enjoying her fun life with the cult, unexpectedly passed away as well. In line with a string of seemingly ordinary, accidental, explainable deaths, Jennifer died in a car accident, which is a kind way of saying she drove her car into an 18-wheeler.
Okay.
Onlookers said that there was no way that she hadn't seen the truck. So it was ruled a suicide.
Oh, okay.
It was like she like went under the truck.
Yeah.
The cult members, including Jennifer's 2 daughters, were left devastated by her loss and thought how unlikely it was that she would commit suicide.
Okay.
It was not in her character.
Yeah.
Yet another tragic death, and yet there was a silver lining. Trish, when she had drowned, had a substantial life insurance policy, $1.2 million. First, it went to Brian, who, lived in the cult, so he would funnel it into the cult. But then when he died, it went to the cult, like all of it.
Right. Okay.
Jennifer also passed her money to Angel's Landing, where it, among with the other members' policies, continued to fund their lifestyles. Are we noticing a pattern here?
Okay. So the people who in some way, shape, or form have left their money to Angel's Landing.
Now it helps them buy more pole barns and pools and TVs.
Oh my God. Okay.
Well, this pattern had been patterning far before the introduction of Jennifer Hudson, such as...
It must have, because where did they have the money beforehand?
Exactly.
Oh my God. Okay.
Exactly, girl.
Oh God.
Such as back in 2001, where a friend of Lou named Mona Griffith, her boyfriend and 12-year-old daughter were killed in a mysterious plane crash. Mona, of course, had a recent $750,000 life insurance policy, which was originally supposed to go to her daughter, who died in the plane crash with her.
Right.
But if her daughter was not able to receive it, it would go to her daughter's listed caregiver, which was Trish Hughes.
Oh.
And so the money continued to fund their cult lifestyle. Now, these deaths, although attributed to Lou, could not exactly be proven in court because, he wasn't in the plane. You know what I mean?
And it seems like he is always, if he is the one orchestrating these things, he does a good job of keeping himself at arm's length.
He's like, I wasn't there.
Right.
I was somewhere else.
Right.
And I have lots of friends who will tell you
if
where I was.
If that is the case, yeah.
If it is,
yeah.
we'll see. However, I will say, I think he did it, and I'll tell you why later.
Okay.
So.
Okay.
Put that on pause. Now, back to 2008. Jennifer had just had her tragic death by way of mysterious car accident, and Lou decided it was probably time to do what he did best, which was to get the hell out of Dodge. So he took Jennifer's daughter, Emily, with him, leaving her other daughter, Sarah, behind, and fled to Tennessee. Just got new properties, left. Sarah, who had lived with the cult essentially all her life, was left feeling moreless and unsure of where to go.
Okay.
So she's 24 at this point. She's like, I don't really know. So she started kind of trying to build a life for herself. She had freedom for the first time in her life. She was able to go out.
That's wild, because there's a lot of life skills you don't get.
And she didn't. She was very confused. In that show, that Dangerous Cults episode, there's a lot of interviews with her where she's talking about I didn't know what the hell to do. Super confused. Luckily, she met a wonderful, and frankly, he's hot.
Okay.
He's frankly hot.
Okay.
Man named Daniel McGrath, who she would go on to marry, and they're still together today. He seems like a very nice guy. I think they have a child together. Very
good.
sweet.
Very good.
Now, of course, she had to eventually tell Daniel about her unusual childhood, because I'm sure he was like, so how are your parents? And she was like, ooh, well,
let's not talk about it.
and she was just kind of like, oh, it was just kind of this situation, whatever. And because she had no reference, and Daniel, being a normal guy, was like, so that's a cult. That's a cult. That's not okay.
Yeah.
And at this point, she was still in contact with Lou because he had her sister.
Right.
So they would call, and she had a normal job, but he would still call and ask her for money and call and yell at her because he was a dick. He sucked. He would call and he would yell at her. And so at one point when he called her and Daniel, her hot boyfriend, saw her getting upset, he was like, hang the fuck up. Hang up on this guy. Don't talk to this guy anymore. I'm not going to let him talk to you like that. But the nature of the conversation kind of alarmed him. So he sat down with her and was like, so, what was your relationship? What kind of stuff did you guys do together, when you were a child? And that's when she realized, oh, I think I've been abused. I think I've been abused my whole life. She didn't know it wasn't normal.
Right.
Lou had been sexually abusing her sister, and any young girl who would come in and around the cult.
Oh, no.
So Daniel was like, okay, time to call the police.
Right.
Police time. So go Daniel. We love Daniel.
Yeah.
Daniel is
Good
the
for
man.
you, man.
Yeah, I love him. This is really sad. Lou would constantly tell Sarah that he was raping her to fix her because he's an angel and he has angelic powers. So he would tell them.
That's horrible.
And he would tell them that they were broken.
Yeah.
That you'll never be able to get married because there's something wrong with you. And
That's
then when you die, you
awful.
won't get to heaven.
Yeah.
So like, let me
That's
do
so
stuff to
fucked
you.
up,
Like, what a
man.
piece of shit.
Yeah.
So this like really affected her psyche, and she knew nothing else, and everyone in the cult like truly believed like he is an angel from the Lord. So like can't say no.
Right.
So yep, Lou was a disgusting pedophile, and as police, alerted to this by Daniel the super husband, began to dig, they discovered that Lou's sexual perversions actually were the motivation behind all of his awful crimes.
Oh God.
As soon as the young girls had moved in with Lou and the others, when Jennifer joined the cult, he began telling everyone that he needed a pure person, of course a young female virgin, to sleep with him in his bed, which is very like Gandhi.
Yes.
Gross.
Yeah.
Disgusting.
Yeah.
He told them all his angelic powers depended on his closeness to young girls, and so he had unrestricted access to Jennifer's two innocent daughters.
God.
I have I don't know, I feel like I'm mean, but like I do have a lot of sympathy for people who get involved in cults.
Right.
But
I
it
do too.
lessens when they're like mothers with children.
Yeah.
I'm like, get your fucking kids out of there.
Yeah.
Get out of there.
Yeah.
I'm mad.
That's right. And this is also not like the first time that's happened. Like,
Absolutely.
That's a very common
Oh, it happens all the time.
series of events.
Do not leave your... oh, my God.
Yeah.
As police would discover, this was not Daniel's first rodeo. Oops, did I say Daniel? I did, because guess what? Lou is not even his real name.
Of course not.
Of course not. His real name is Daniel Perez. And once police figured out his real name, they were able to search the sex offenders registry and found a bombshell. Our angelic cult leader had a long history of assaulting and raping young girls who ranged in age from 16 down to 8 years old.
Oh my.
Yeah. He would constantly move around to dodge charges for these crimes and would take on new identities as he fled. This is really creepy. In fact, he came to the name Lou Castro in a crazy way. Remember Mona, who passed away in that wild plane accident?
Yes.
Lou Castro was her brother's name. He took on that identity after she died.
Oh my.
He was like, that's a nice name.
Oh no.
I'll take that identity.
Yo.
Right.
That's fucked up.
In 2010, when police caught up to Lou, or Daniel, or whatever the fuck his name is, I mean Joe Venegas, because that was the new name that he had. So at this point now he's Joe. They were in luck because he was literally like robbing a bank when they found him. Throwback to the last episode we recorded.
So he just like pieced out from this cult that
Yep.
he was running.
Yeah, he was like, oh, bye.
And just dipped.
Yeah, bye-bye. I'm going to go over here and do a different cult now.
Okay.
So he was like trying to like drum up members.
That's a strategy.
Yeah, and he was just like robbing
Robbing
and
banks.
like doing like other kind of money fraud.
Wow, twofer.
Right.
Yeah.
With all these like financial crimes, they were able to put him in jail because at this point the police had this case, but it still wasn't solid enough to convict.
Yeah.
But it was cool because now they were like, well, we have 2 years because he's in prison for 2 years, so he can't go anywhere.
Yeah.
So it was very like tense.
Yeah.
They're trying to get everything together. Since this asshole was in jail, where I sincerely hope he dropped the soap every single day, Emily, Sarah's sister, who he had like fled with to Tennessee, obviously they rescued her and were like, girl, you're in a cult. She's like, oh yeah, that tracks.
That makes sense.
Actually, now that you say that,
Yeah.
that makes sense. She was now free to talk to the police, and talk she did. In fact, she added an incredible factor to the case. Trish's death by way of pool was not an accident. And in fact, Lou had premeditatedly murdered her.
You don't say.
I know.
You don't say.
Poor Emily had
Yeah.
only been 10 at the time and was a pawn in Lou's evil plan. He made her instrumental to this whole thing. He forced her to participate. He told her about his plan beforehand, but like all in the guise of like, he would say things like, I've talked to the Lord, talked to my pal Jeebus, and it's Trisha's time to go. She needs to go to heaven. So it's okay. She's not really dying. He'd tell them all kinds of bullshit. But she's a kid. So what is she supposed to do? So he told her all
That
kinds
poor
of things.
kid.
Yup. And had her help him come up with an alibi before forcing her to call the police and report Trisha's death herself.
Oh no.
Lou had struck Trish on the head before holding her under the water until she passed away. Again, she was 26 and had been loyal to him since the start.
Yeah.
So she was like his
What
like
an
right
asshole.
hand man, right? So I'm like, fuck you. As for their mother, Jennifer, he had told Emily and Sarah beforehand that their mother also needed to die and go to heaven before convincing Jennifer to take her own life.
Wow.
He was like, it's cool.
That's
You'll
a
wake
lot.
up in Copacabana or whatever.
Yeah.
But she woke up
That's
under
a
a
lot.
truck.
Yeah.
In 2015, Lou, Daniel, Joe, whatever, was taken to court. Medical experts, insurance agents, cult members, cult experts, and other concerned parties flocked to the courtroom to testify against him, and luckily they were successful. Angel Boy was convicted of over 28 counts of rape, burglary, assault, and of course, the murder of Trish Hughes. Brian, who got crushed by the car, and Jennifer, car accident, are both labeled as accidental, but judging by Lou's past as a car mechanic, we can easily make assumptions.
Right.
So there were also kind of things of like, because I truly think that he was in the garage with Brian and kicked the jack over or whatever. I don't know car stuff. I don't know if you can kick it. I'm not the car expert.
There's certainly a way to release it quickly.
Right. Especially if he's under and he's standing up. And then I know it said that he convinced Jennifer to kill herself, but who's to say he wouldn't have like taken the brakes out of her car?
Right.
You know?
Right. Just as an
he had been a
insurance
mechanic.
policy or something.
Right.
Yeah.
Remember how I said earlier, I think that I like as soon as, the whole plane crash thing with Mona and her daughter and her boyfriend, it's like, well, that's a plane crash and he wasn't on the plane. But guess what he did when he was in the Navy? Plane mechanic.
Oh.
He was a jet mechanic.
Okay.
So like that's not something that I can like look away from. So I feel like he took the plane brakes out or whatever the fuck.
Right.
Daniel Perez was sentenced to 80 years in Wichita State Prison, where he remains to this day.
Good.
He is creepy looking, by the way. Angel's Landing, although a smaller cult, having only about 7 members at its largest, is still a chilling reminder at how cult leaders are able to manipulate innocent people to literally give their lives to please their leader. I truly hope that Sarah and Emily are living happily and peacefully. Like I said, Sarah got married. Her husband, is the one who really helped tie this whole case together. He was like going through
Encouraged
records.
her to go to the police. Yeah.
And did a ton of work. So like, that's amazing.
Yeah. That's
don't
awesome.
join a cult.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Isn't that
Wow.
crazy?
Wow. Okay, so I want to start off by saying the case that I'm covering is still ongoing, which is very rare.
Ooh.
Normally there's not a ton of information, but there happens to be a ton of information in this case. So I'm going to go ahead and cover it, but I'm just saying that.
That's so exciting.
Because it is an ongoing matter.
Maybe
so.
we'll solve it.
It's already solved. It's already solved.
Vicky and Rachel on the rest.
So we are going to talk about Good News International Ministries.
Oh.
Yes.
Yes.
Sometimes called Good News International Church and GNIM for short. It's founded in 2003 by Paul Mackenzie, and this all takes place in Africa. Okay.
Oh my God.
Yes. Are you familiar?
Yes.
Yo.
I'm so excited.
So before his rise to the head of the church and ultimately cult leader, Mackenzie was originally from a town on the Kenyan coast.
Okay.
He was one of 9 siblings in an evangelical Christian family, which is not uncommon in Kenya.
Right.
They obviously have had a lot of missionaries and things that come through the area that have really spread Christianity in this kind of interesting way.
They're spreading something.
Yeah. It sounded like he was a typical kid who loved to go to church. He would like dance to gospel music at home.
Play Fortnite.
Now, this is from an article in the New Yorker. Quote, he could quickly turn violent. When he was 16, he got into an argument with another boy during a game of hide and seek and began viciously hitting him, end quote. After school, he worked as a taxi driver in Nairobi for 6 years before deciding to take up preaching himself.
Okay.
When the church started in 2003, it was really just like a small congregation, a very small congregation. But as soon as things started, there was definitely some steam he picked up and things started ballooning. More and more members started joining. And so he decided to move the entire operation to Malindi, where they had a lot more room to expand. a lot of times it's called a compound. I use the word compound.
Yeah,
it was
very
like
culty.
20 or like 200, 800 something acres. I mean, it was like huge. It was huge. So they moved out to Malindi to accommodate now these
members.
Yes. The majority of his followers were from Kenya, although he did have congregates from Tanzania, Uganda, and Nigeria.
Okay.
So
People are coming
in. Yeah.
So you must have something to say, I guess.
Right. Yeah. So let's talk about the beliefs of the church for a second. So, like I said, I had a quote from the New Yorker. There's a great article by Alexis Akeowo about this called The Cult in the Forest. I'm going to link it in the show notes. It was a wealth of information.
Awesome.
Very, very good article. Definitely check it out.
Oh, that sounds good.
In describing Mackenzie, they said, quote, he was slender with protruding eyes and a temperament that easily escalated from calm to fierce, and was known as a fervent preacher of the Gospels. He urged his followers to avoid television, sports, and other secular pastimes, to refuse Western medicine, and to take their children out of school. I was told by the spirits to tell the people that education is evil, that it comes from man. He claimed to speak directly with God.
Ew. Well, he sounds like he sucks.
Quote.
I hate him already.
So he was like, yeah. And they talk a lot, too, that the inspiration for Mackenzie's like gospel was from this guy named William Branham. I don't know if you're familiar with him or not.
Super familiar.
He sort of
sounds evil.
Yeah. Yes.
William Branham.
If you picture an old white guy, you'd be correct.
Oh, hell yeah.
So he sort of like kicked off the big healing revivals post World War II.
That's right.
In the United States. And he was a big like end times, second coming of
like
Jesus
a fanatical
Christ.
Preacher.
Yeah, he did like faith healings was a big thing.
Oh.
He had a huge impact on the televangelism movement.
Ew.
Like, yeah. That guy.
Gross.
So
hate him.
That's where GNIM and Mackenzie sort of get their inspiration from, is William Branham.
Great.
Yeah. Oftentimes he was preaching doomsday and end times messages, things that were Western or evil. He was not a big fan of the United States, the United Nations, and the Catholic Church. He was like, these are all tools of Satan.
Okay, 2 out of 3 I agree. But
Right. Yeah.
I'm not going to start a cult about it.
He even talks about this in this song that he made.
What?
Called The Antichrist. I listened to it. It's very reggae.
Bump it.
It's him dancing.
I love it.
And it's very reggae, but it's in a language that I don't speak. And it's a song apparently about the Antichrist. So that's fun.
I love it.
Yeah. He did seem to throw a date out there too, as you do for the end times.
Oh, yeah. That always works out for them really well when they do that.
His was April 15th, 2023.
Oh, my God. Did we miss it?
We missed it.
Shit.
Clearly, it hasn't happened yet. I'm still waiting.
No way.
Still waiting. So the GNIM started off innocently enough. It was a congregation of people who got together and read the Bible to understand teachings. But then things started to get a little funny.
Okay.
After a while. There are reports that by 2016, Mackenzie had followers selling their property and then donating the money to him or to the church.
Oh, my God.
There was one member who sold their property on this island for 20 million Kenyan shillings.
Oh, you guys.
Gave all the money to the church.
Churches don't need money. They don't pay taxes.
Well,
Don't give them
here's
money.
Here's the thing. Well, I don't know what it is in Africa, to be honest with you, what the tax situation is. But,
Me neither, but still.
the church need things. He needs things like properties and vehicles and the broadcasting company that he wanted to open called Times TV.
Oh, my God.
Where he planned to spread sermons and teachings.
Ew.
So he bought a TV studio.
I hate
It's
him.
funny. He had also been going hard on the whole not sending your kids to school thing.
Great.
Which was generating some negative publicity.
I should hope so.
Public officials were publicly denouncing him for this particular view. Yeah. Then in 2017, quote, Mackenzie was charged with promoting radicalization through the church and failing to send his own children to school. He was acquitted. 2 years later, he was arrested again and found guilty of running an unlicensed TV studio. End quote.
Love that.
Times TV, not licensed.
Shocker.
Yeah. And these were probably the least of his worries.
Yeah.
Because another big part of GNIM was rejecting Western medicine.
Right.
This included children that needed health care.
Oh my God. I hate this guy.
In some form or another.
This guy
Things
sucks.
happen, right?
Let that kid go to the doctor.
So along with the charges in 2017, authorities recovered 93 kids from the GNIM after several had died under their care. So there was like a handful that had passed away. They came in, they like took all the kids out.
Good.
But it doesn't really appear that there were any specific consequences in that case.
That's the thing. It's all very like abstract.
Frankly, there's a lot of children that go back.
Oh my God.
Back into their care, yeah. By the time, by the time, I believe this is 2020.
Oh, wow.
Rolls around.
Oh my God.
Mackenzie had started the practice of fasting.
Oh, great.
Something that was a holdover from William Branham, who viewed fasting, quote, as a way of achieving atomic power.
For thee, but not for me. I'm going to have a cheeseburger, but you, my followers, just don't eat for a couple weeks. It'll be fine.
And again, from this great New Yorker article, quote, Mackenzie eventually told his people that the world was ending and that everyone would soon die. The only way to ensure a place in heaven was to starve to death. Getting to heaven is not as easy as bread and margarine, he said in one sermon. You have to deny yourself and go against yourself. You have to get to the point of ending your life for the sake of Jesus. Children would also have to fast. Let them die, he said. Is there any problem? It's Jesus who gave you those children, end quote.
What? Ew.
Fasting for Jesus.
Oh my God.
Yeah. The fact that you have to starve to death
Yeah.
to get to heaven.
I don't remember that from any of my
I don't remember that in my confirmation classes.
Yeah, no, not at all.
That's
they
for
skipped
sure.
that for
They
us.
skipped that for me.
I actually remember Jeebus making like fish and bread for people. Didn't he do that?
He did.
Yeah, I feel like he was a fan of people eating.
He did.
You know?
He was.
You know?
I would say on the whole, generally a fan of people eating.
Oh my God.
And the fact that he was like, what does it matter? Jesus gave you those children.
Right, where I'm just going to return them. Stamp a
Yeah,
return slip
yeah.
on them. Send
Crazy.
them back up to God.
Now, by this point, Mackenzie had put together a sort of, call it a security force
Okay.
within the GNIM, and they were tasked with making sure the fast was going according to plan.
That's crazy.
People who were having problems sticking to the fast or genuinely needed food. I mean, not to say that everybody didn't genuinely need food, but like things like nursing mothers or pregnant women or children were sneaking food at night and like drinking water from the streams. They were like sharing streams with animals, drinking water.
These poor people.
And the security force took their job very seriously, punishing people who didn't want to fast or tried to escape GNIM. Oftentimes, this took the form of tying people to trees for like days on end.
This is horrible.
Arms and legs, yeah. Mackenzie had this view that when they were dying, it was their quote unquote wedding day. And began calling the deaths wedding. So he'd be like, you know, Stacy is on her way to her wedding.
To what he's doing.
Yeah.
That's disgusting.
Yeah. And maybe to like rationalize it for himself.
Right,
Like it's
completely.
not people dying.
Yeah.
It's a wedding.
Yeah, it's easier to do stuff if you don't talk about it. I'm going to kill this guy. I'm going to kick him with my
There were many times when people were close to death from starvation. Mackenzie would show up and strangle them or have them strangled so they could go on their journey to heaven. It was like, I'll complete this journey for you so you can go to heaven.
God.
And that's not to say that everyone who was there was not totally on board with this.
Well, right.
Like, there were definitely members who believed
They were
that
down with the sickness, for sure.
believed heavily that Mackenzie could speak directly to God and he'd been teaching these things and following the rules of the fast because they genuinely believed that they were going to see Jesus.
Oh my God.
Right.
Ew.
So it's
That's
not
dumb.
Yeah.
Like, sorry.
And there was a big juxtaposition between the way the followers were treated and the way members of the security force were treated. Of course. Followers were treated essentially as prisoners. The security force were treated as kings. Obviously, they were paid for their work there. And I saw in a lot of places that in Kenya, it's really difficult to get work, to get a steady job that provides well. And they were getting paid like $75 a month, I want to say.
To tie people to trees?
Every 2 months. Yeah.
Fuck.
So that's like pretty good for that. Like,
oh my God, this is awful.
Many of them, but because they were like paid employees, essentially,
right.
Most of them knew that like the miracles that he was performing, that Mackenzie was performing, were fake and like pre-set up.
Yeah,
like
they were tying fishing line to things.
Or he was like healing somebody to walk again that was, like not injured. It was very staged.
Right. So they're like pushing the actors around backstage.
Right. But they continued to stay because they were making money. Their families were not subject to the rules of the fast. They even got bags of maize during harvest season along with like meat and rice. So they got fed very well. They were able to freely walk around the compound, and some took advantage of their status. And I read also that this was sort of encouraged by Mackenzie. They felt free reign to rape the women that were there. And there was extra money in it for the people who went around strangling like the people who were close to death from starvation. There was extra money in it.
God.
So yeah. But even then, I mean, there's a certain amount of monitoring that happens with the security force. There were rules that they also had to follow. They weren't as extreme, but like they had certain rules. It was like if I ask you to do something, you kind of have to do it.
Right.
But yeah, definitely a lot looser for the security force. Yeah.
For sure.
Now this went unchecked for a while. But in 2023, stories about what was going on at the compound started leaking out. And a man named Changawa Mangi, who was an elder at a village nearby, these two boys like escape from the compound into the village. And he takes these two boys in. They were 10 and 12 years old. They'd escaped GNIM. This is again from the New Yorker article, quote, they told Mangi that they had been eating sand to survive and that one of their mothers had died of starvation, unquote.
Wow.
Now, this was so concerning that 200 people from the village go to the compound to investigate.
Hell yeah, village justice.
But as they get there, Mackenzie's security forces come out with like machetes and bats and basically fight off the villagers from entering the compound.
That means normal things are happening there.
Yeah, and they're
fight people off.
They're forced to retreat. They go back to the village.
God.
But the boys were not the only ones like making it out of this compound with this kind of story of starvation and like having to find food. Yeah. One of Mackenzie's deputies, Titus Katana, essentially defected after witnessing starvation, beatings, and public killings. He went to see this guy named Victor Kaudo, who is the head of the Malindi Community Human Rights Center.
Oh, wow.
So Katana tells Kaudo the stories of what's going on, and is like he had made it out with some videos of people being punished for eating, not following the fast.
Oh, that's good. That's good that he has that.
Yes, yeah. Although, like, in the beginning, the police were not necessarily the most receptive to, like...
Right.
They were like, we kind of need harder evidence. Like, it's hard for us to do anything because we don't have any evidence.
Maybe do your job.
Maybe
do some detective work. I don't know.
Well, in April 2023, police felt that they finally had enough evidence to actually go and make an arrest and start an in-earnest investigation into what may have been happening with GNIM.
Wow.
This started with arresting Mackenzie.
Good.
They arrest him right away. But then he's released on bail.
No.
And they continue their investigation. After a little bit, he was rearrested and held in custody because they were doing a raid of the compound.
Oh.
When they got there, using this Kudo, the human rights guy, they use him as sort of a guide of the property.
Yeah.
When they got there, they discovered several mass graves scattered across the 800-acre property.
Well, that's concerning.
Along with several people still alive but starving to death, and more that had like heard the police coming and escaped into the forest.
Help.
So there's still people out there that they're like, we're probably never going to know or see again or whatever.
Right.
Most of the graves contained women and children. There seemed to be some families buried together. Like These were not like 100 people mass graves, but they're like, maybe 10, 12
Right.
bodies.
They probably dig a big hole and fill everyone in from the
But some of them were family members,
so sad.
all buried in one grave. Some were not buried at all. They even found a person that had been buried alive for 3 days that was still, they managed to take to the hospital and recovered, but they had been buried underground for 3 days.
Wow. I bet
Alive.
that hospital food tasted delicious.
Probably. But you have to be careful because it's like,
Just a little at a time.
yeah, your system is like
Your
all
stomach will,
fucked up.
explode. Yeah.
They've also discovered that there were organs missing from a lot of the bodies as well. Things like kidneys and eyes.
I see.
Then makes authorities assume that GNIM is involved in some sort of organ trafficking and trading.
Very Squid Game.
Yeah, and it's, very real.
Very lucrative.
Very lucrative.
Yes.
Very real.
Hold on to your organs, guys. Don't let nobody take your organs.
Yeah. Now, as of the writing of the New Yorker article, this was in August 2024, so August of last year, police had recovered around 450 bodies from the property. Although the government has not released an official estimate, workers at the site estimate hundreds of bodies more. It's 800 acres.
Wow.
So I don't know what percentage of the property they've gone through, but
sure.
it's a lot of, that's a lot of land. That's a lot of land.
450 people. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's sad.
There's more.
No,
Please stop.
stop immediately.
In addition to Mackenzie, 94 accomplices have been taken into custody, but many have denied any and all claims of murder or
I didn't do that.
forced starvation. I don't know what you're talking about.
Why would I do that?
But many are still on the run.
Yeah.
A lot of them escaped. Mackenzie is charged with the manslaughter of 230 adults, 230 adults through suicide pact, and the murder of 191 children, and is currently in custody awaiting trial.
Wow.
Interestingly enough, Alexis Akaowo, who wrote the New Yorker article, was able to interview Mackenzie while he was in custody.
Really?
Yeah, and so I want to read a little portion of that for you because it is
talking about interviewing Hannibal Lecter.
no
Ew.
kidding. Yeah, he was there on a visit with his wife and kind of like tells her to come in the room.
What a brave reporter.
Yeah, it's a really good article. It's a very interesting
I can't wait to
article.
read it.
Yeah. He said that, this is quote, he said that he had advised his followers not to go to hospitals or schools, but that he had not forced them to do anything. His wife noted that he was not the only one concerned over the types of things children were being taught in schools, including LGBTQ issues.
Oh my God.
And that in Florida, the government was censoring textbooks. Mackenzie said that he had stopped preaching in 2019 after his arrest and that he had never set up a formal place of worship in Shakahola, which was the name of the compound. There's no church there, he said. There was nothing. It was just shambas. He had lived there as a member of the community. It was sort of like a village, he said.
Oh,
end quote.
yeah, sort of, except for the like piles of dead bodies.
Yeah, he's like, I don't know nothing.
no food.
I don't know anything about a church. There was barely buildings there. I don't even
Get
know.
out of here.
Yeah. Mackenzie goes on to adamantly deny that he or his security force had ever murdered anybody.
He's like, what?
And that he had any knowledge of mass graves prior to them being found by the investigating authorities.
That's
He's
what
like,
those were?
yeah, he's like, I don't know anything. We had some sinkholes, but like I didn't know they were bodies.
Oh my God, wow. That's
No
so
idea
weird.
they were there. Yeah, that's what he says.
That's where all those bodies went?
Yeah. This is another quote from the article. Quote, he then claimed if his followers had died, it was because Jesus Christ had come and raptured them away.
Oh.
Jesus himself did it, he said. Nobody killed anybody. I did nothing. And nobody can stand anywhere and say, Mackenzie did this and this. His wife, who said that she had never been to Shakahola, was more careful. She said that there seemed to have been a mistrust of... a mixture, a mixture of some fights and conflicts, and that she was convinced this was the cause of the deaths. When I asked if she, like her husband, believed the people had been raptured, she said, I don't have a view of that because I wasn't there, end quote. Alexis Akaowo goes on to say that, quote, since my visit, she has been charged as an accomplice to manslaughter, child negligence, and radicalization. She has pleaded not guilty, end quote.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. And Mackenzie continues to assert that this is a total attack on his faith and it's like religious persecution.
Whatever.
Like, yeah.
Cry me a fucking river.
Yeah. Now, like I said, this is still an ongoing matter.
Yeah.
And there's definitely been some interesting charging decisions in this matter. Now, first of all, I didn't know this was a thing because I do not know a ton about African law.
Yeah.
But apparently in Kenya, suicide is a misdemeanor punishable by up to 2 years in prison.
What? Get up,
Yeah.
you sad shit. You're going to jail.
So as a result of this, 65 victims had been arraigned for attempted suicide in June 2023. Obviously, this decision is heavily criticized by human rights organizations for the obvious message that it sends to survivors, right?
Duh.
Like, it's... Again, I don't know if those charges have been dropped, but they originally were arraigned. I thought that was an interesting decision because, like, obviously there is coercion happening here, and like,
absolutely.
Also, that's a really interesting law because if you attempt suicide and survive, then you could go to prison for 2 years.
So it's just going to make people try harder. That's bad.
I don't know. It's just a weird,
I'm mad
it's a
about
strange
that.
law
That's
to
crazy.
me.
It's stupid.
Yeah.
Moral policing.
The other thing is that although Mackenzie had been taken into custody while the search of the compound was underway, he hadn't actually been charged with anything at the time. So authorities had to continue like going back to the courts to get an extension of his detention time because they're investigating. They don't want to release him. So they literally had to keep going back to the courts and be like, we still need to detain. And he had never been charged with anything.
Wow.
Mackenzie is now the longest detention without charge in Kenyan history at 117 days in custody.
Wow. Oh, I hope he doesn't get out. Shit.
Well, he has now been charged.
Oh, okay.
He has now been charged.
But he was the long. Oh, I see.
Yeah, and they were primarily looking at the 191 charges for the children.
Oh.
But the court also ordered that the number of charges be reduced from 191 to 12, largely to avoid delays in the court process.
Okay.
He's still awaiting trial, but like when I think I said 94 basically co-defendants, like accomplices that had been arrested, the breadth and like of these charges for all these people is in the hundreds, maybe thousands, because for each of those accomplices, you're talking about maybe a couple hundred counts of whatever, depending on what their involvement was.
Tying people to trees, etc.
Times 94.
Holy shit.
So the judge was like, we need to figure out how to like reduce these to the really important things that we can prove because even with 12 children, like you're probably not going to get out of prison if you are convicted, right?
Oh gosh.
But like,
Wow.
So he is currently awaiting trial.
I hope he's having a miserable time in prison.
Yeah, I don't know.
I hope he isn't eating anything.
Now he probably can't see his wife because she's charged.
I hope she's also having a terrible time. I would spit in her food.
Yeah. Also, don't join a cult.
Yeah, don't do that.
Join a cult. Don't
do that.
Instead, listen to this podcast.
Need an escape? Vanish into the depths of a magic forest. Head out on an interstellar repair mission. Travel back in time to change the future. Explore inside someone or something else. Meet dragons, werewolves, birds, bears, aliens, mermen, and a man with a fishbowl for a head. All in 10 minutes or less every week. Tune in to 600 Second Saga for your weekly science fiction and fantasy escape.
All right, Rachel, that has been our episode.
Oh my gosh, that was a heavy one.
That was a heavy. We haven't had a real heavy one in a long time.
I'm going to have to like go watch cheerful stuff.
Yeah, I need some food. I'm starving.
I am too. I felt really bad, but I was like, okay, this is actually making me like really hungry.
Yeah, no,
I want
I'm starving.
Subway. What are you going to have?
I don't know. Probably McDonald's or something.
I just want like a sandwich.
Yeah, I just had Jimmy John's like the other
James
day.
Jonathan's.
Oh, I have that
Jimmy
panda in my
John's.
fridge, remember?
Oh, yeah.
That's right. Anyway.
Yum.
If you enjoyed this episode, you can find more just like this at badtastepodcast.com. Do you have any final thoughts before we wrap up here.
I'm just excited for my sandwich.
All right,
And I
Rachel.
can eat it because I'm not in a cult.
Excited for the sandwich. Our sound and editing is by Tiff Fullman. Our music is by Jason Zakshevsky, the Enigma.
Woo!
This has been the Bad Taste Crime Podcast. We will see you in 2 weeks. Goodbye.
Avocado Mystery Podcast.
Oh my God. That's not the new theme song.
It's been the theme song.
Along the highway. It was as if a wave of evil washed over this town.
We are all evil in some form